Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. Taking a look at the live price for gold and silver today. It's Monday, February 28th, and you can see that at the market open today, both gold and silver had some pretty nice moves up. That was on the news that we got over the weekend of Western nations sanctioning Russia from the SWIFT payment system. Also on news that Vladimir Putin had raised Russia's nuclear alert status. So definitely a lot of uncertainty in the markets this morning. Now the Russians and Ukrainians are meeting for peace talks, so we've seen the metals give up some of those gains, and we've seen also a recovery in stocks, which were down pretty significantly at the open. I've mentioned this in previous videos. This is just a sign that investors do still view gold and silver as safe haven assets, and nothing about that has changed. So gold and silver will continue to be safe havens moving forward. And I do think that at today's price is $24.31 at the moment for silver, $1,901 for gold. I do think that these prices are still extremely low, and that silver specifically is extremely undervalued at today's prices, and it will probably be moving much higher. And that is what we are going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to give you some price targets. We'll be taking a look at some historical data, some charts. Stick around. It's going to be a great video. We're going to cover lots of good stuff. Let's get to it. So we're going to start off today by looking at this chart here. This is the Dow to silver ratio long-term chart. And so basically what this is, this chart just tells you how many ounces at any given time it took to buy one share of the Dow Jones Industrial Stock Market Index. So it's basically a chart that gives you the value of silver relative to the value of stocks. And you can see that right now, today, we are close to the $1,500 level here. And then if you go back to the low point of the chart back in January of 1980, you get to a level of 2389 on this chart. And at 2389, if you wanted to get that ratio today with the Dow Jones Industrial Average being over 33,000, you would need silver in the $1,300 to $1,400 range. Now that's what I talked about in the video I put out a couple weeks ago. Now, I got a lot of criticism and feedback on that video in the comments about how in 1980, the Hunt brothers were manipulating the silver market and they were responsible for the compression of this ratio. And so this isn't a reliable piece of data to look at because the numbers are skewed because of the Hunt brothers manipulation. Now, the Hunt brothers did drive up the price of silver in 1980. They were involved in that, but it's not like it was just the Hunt brothers. I mean, that occurred against a backdrop of geopolitical instability. The Soviets had just invaded Afghanistan at the end of 1979. The Iran hostage situation was around this time. Also, there was dramatic inflation in the US. Inflation was hitting all-time highs. And the Fed, under Paul Volcker, had just cranked up interest rates up to about 20%. So there was quite a bit of uncertainty in the market at that time. There was a lot going on. People weren't sure if the Fed was going to be able to get ahead of inflation. Now, of course, they were. They had to crank up rates quite high. And that, combined with the fact that the COMEX changed the margin requirements on the Hunt brothers, it caused the price of silver to crash back down. So, okay, we can disregard, let's say we completely disregard this chart because of the Hunt brother manipulation. Let's take a look at the Dow to gold ratio. So the Hunt brothers were not manipulating the price of gold. Maybe gold did catch a little bit of extra attention because of the spike up in silver. But remember, I mentioned all those other factors that were driving uncertainty at that time. So it wasn't just manipulation that drove the price of gold up to, I believe the high in 1980 was about $850 in gold. And that got us to a Dow to gold ratio of about 1.38. So at that time, at the low, you could buy one share of the Dow for about 1.3 ounces of gold. And so again, today, if we were to use that ratio with the current price of the Dow, if in a precious metals bull market, the price of gold moves up enough to compress this ratio back down to the 1980 high, you would need gold to be over $25,000. So if we get $25,000 gold, how high would silver go? Well, let's take a look at this gold to silver ratio chart. And you can see the ratio gets down as low as 15 back in 1980. We won't use that number because of the Hunt brother manipulation. That would have compressed this ratio. But there was no manipulation going on, at least not to the upside, back in 2011. The ratio got as low as 3160 back then, but let's just be conservative and let's say 40 because it penetrated the 40 level nicely. So let's say you've got $25,000 gold and you get down to a ratio of just 40, which the ratio compressed to back in 2011. Now you're talking about $625 silver. So that is what I would put my mid-range price target for silver at. And I know, this may seem pie in the sky, and I'm not saying that silver's going to hit 625 overnight. I'm not saying that silver's going to move up to 625 this year or next year, but when you consider all of the market fundamentals, all of the fiat currency that's been created, the massive levels of debt, the fact that we are potentially on the verge of World War III, the fact that we have a record trade deficit now that's over $1 trillion a year, to say 625 is your price target for silver, I don't think seems crazy. I don't think it seems outside of the realm of possibilities for silver to move that high. And for me, silver is really kind of a conviction trade because I look at all of those fundamental things and then I look at the price of silver today at, $25 or $24. And I think that's just so crazy that silver would be so underpriced. And, they say the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain liquid, but you don't really have to worry about that if you're stacking physical silver, because physical silver is a long-term investment. I'm not trying to flip my physical silver. I'm stacking it up as a conviction, knowing that $25 or $24 or 26 or 27, all of those numbers, it's a crazy low price for silver. And I am taking advantage of that. I am seeing the irrational behavior of the marketplace and trying to take advantage of that by acquiring silver at these low prices. Now, another thing I do want to take a look at, and this really will make it sink in just how cheap silver is at today's prices. Let's take a look at the daily silver price chart for 1980. And this is courtesy of SD Bullion. They have these charts available for pretty much every year for silver, so a very nice resource for anybody trying to go back and look at historical data. And you can see, here's the spike up in January, and it goes up to about $42. I think that was the highest close. The $50 level was just an intraday trading. And then here's the crash. Here's the crash after the COMEX changed the margin requirements on silver. And you can see it spiked down pretty nicely. And then we come to the low here in May. And the absolute low daily closing silver price in 1980 was on May 22nd, when silver closed at $10.89. So that was the absolute low. And like I said, people criticized me in that previous video because I'm talking about the highs of silver here and how this was a manipulated number. Well, okay, so $10.89. Well, let's go over to this site here. This is an inflation calculator, usinflationcalculator.com, and we'll just adjust that price from 1980 to 2022. Let's see what we get. And mind you, this inflation calculator is using the CPI. I think we all know that the CPI understates inflation pretty significantly, so this is a very conservative estimate. But let's take that price of $10.89 for silver in 1980. Remember, that's the lowest price that silver closed in 1980. Now let's see what the calculation is. How much would that be worth today? $37.16. That is almost 50% higher than the current price of silver. So this should illustrate to you very nicely just how underpriced silver bullion is at these price levels. If you go to the absolute lowest price that silver hit in 1980 and you just adjust that price for inflation using the CPI, so the most conservative inflation adjustment you could make, and you get to $37.16. So $37.16, that's my answer to everybody who commented on that previous video about how you can't use the 1980 high because it's a manipulated number by the Hunt brothers. I just want to let you know that the low for 1980 was about 50% higher than where we're at right now when you're talking about real terms, when you're adjusting for inflation. And again, using the CPI. So $37.16 is my extremely conservative lowest price target for silver. I don't think there's any way that say over the next 5 years, silver doesn't go as high as 37.16. So only time will tell. People will watch this video in the future and, you know, they'll be able to assess how accurate this price target was. I do think that saying, you know, we're going to get $1,300 silver or $1,700 silver or $25,000 gold, maybe that is a bit of an extreme price target, but I'm just going by what the data tells us. You know, I think that the data is telling us that silver and gold should be priced much higher than they currently are. And again, when you consider all of the fundamentals, the geopolitical instability, the inflation, the massive levels of debt, the Fed's inability to get ahead of inflation, their inability to raise rates in any kind of an effective way like they did back in 1980, I think all of those things just are massively bullish for silver. And I do kind of feel like it's that story, you know, the emperor's new clothes, when you look at all these fundamentals and it kind of becomes clear that the dollar is on borrowed time and that metals are just extremely cheap at today's prices. When you see people who are saying like $625 silver, that could never happen, not in our lifetime, silver will never move up. Those are like the people who looked at the naked emperor and said he had a fine suit of clothes. So don't listen to the naysayers, you know, and don't listen to me either. Do your own due diligence. I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. This is just food for thought. You know, go look at the data yourself. All of those charts, the Dow to silver ratio, the Dow to gold ratio, the gold to silver ratio, those are all available over at macrotrends.net. There's some really nice charting tools over there. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't buy into the hype that gold and silver are going to be relegated to the ash heap of history. You know, they're not barbarous relics. They're real stores of value. And the fact that they're moving up on this news of instability that we're getting regarding the Ukraine-Russia situation is just an indication that they still are stores of value. Nothing has changed there. Nothing's going to change. Gold and silver will be stores of value long after you and I have shuffled off this mortal coil. Don't think that just because gold and silver are cheap now, that's not a reason to buy them. Quite the contrary, if you ask me. That's why I am still stacking silver. And if you guys like this video, please do give it a big thumbs up down below. Why not subscribe to the channel? And I do have to say a tremendous thank you to all of you who have been watching the channel over the past couple years. Just hit 11,000 subscribers, so I am very excited about that. And I think that that is a clear sign that interest in precious metals is growing, and I am very happy to have all of you subscribers watching. I really appreciate all of the support. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it. Subscribe, join the community. You'll get to see more videos just like this one. And, you know, what are your price targets for gold and silver? I would like to hear from you. All of you, please let me know in the comments down below what you think the price of gold and silver could be in the medium to long term, the short term, whatever kind of price target you want to set. Let me know, and let me know how you arrived at that number down in the comments. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, then check out the ones that are popping up on your screen right now. Thank you all very much for watching. Stay safe and happy stacking. I'll catch you next time. Smart Silver Stacker, out.